For today's seminar, in honor of API Month, we are so lucky to have our special guest speaker, Christina Liu. Before I hand over the mic to Christina, if you will have any questions throughout the seminar, please feel free to type them in the chat box, and I will monitor the chat box throughout the seminar and then present the questions at the end of the meeting during our Q&A portion. Now, please help me welcome Christina. Christina, I think you're muted.
Thank you. I said, thank you. Thank you so much, Lily. So for my topic, it's how my Asian heritage impacts me as a whole. And a little bit about me before I get started. As many of you know, I was part of the SEPTA incident that occurred in November 17th, 2021 on SEPTA subway. And it was during where I was going home from school, and I walked to the subway platforms and into the cart, and then I saw a group of boys just hiding, shielding themselves, and also crying. But then a group of girls came over immediately from the other cart, and then started screaming at them, and then started attacking them. And to me, I couldn't stand seeing violence happen right in front of me. And it was more of an instinctive move. I didn't think of anything, what would happen afterwards. It's just, to me, I wanted to protect the kids because, well, they were being attacked, not because of their race or because they were like different parties. And yeah, and after the November SEPTA attack incident, I started like wanting to immerse myself into the advocacy world, like to fight for human rights. Before that, I was already helping the advocacy world with the civic engagement among the Asian community, and also vaccine uptake with one of the organizations that I am in. And yeah. And then my first topic will be about finding my identity with being a second generation Chinese in America. So on multiple occasions when I was younger, I was bullied and made fun of because of my Asian culture. But of course, I never told my parents because it felt like a hassle in a way. It felt, I didn't want to, because they were already trying to take on the burden of being an adult and having situations where they had to take responsibility to take care of me and my brothers. And because of that, during that time when I was bullied, I felt lost and confused with my heritage. For example, at school, I was in a predominantly white elementary and middle school. And so my parents would give me like dumplings or like Asian like specific dishes. And when I go to like school lunches, it's just like people would make fun of it because of the smell or like just like the look of it, and it like made me hurt. But I never told my parents about it because I didn't want to like involve them or anything or bother them in a way. And I know that many like Asian kids feel this way, where they feel like they can't talk to their parents. But as you grew older, your parents are like your best friends. Like they're there to protect you, and it's like they're there to listen to you. And I feel like that's what I learned when I started to grow up. And like also the single story written society has definitely impacted my childhood. I was never able to learn much of my Asian culture. Like in elementary, my parents put me into a religious school. So it was like Catholicism, which was what I learned. And then I was sent to a public school, but even then I wasn't accessible to the Chinese language, and also like Chinese like literature given by the school. So my parents put me into like Chinese schools on Saturdays, and it definitely helped me to understand the language much better, and also like to express myself. But I always felt like I was the odd one out. And during this time where I was on Chinese schools on Saturdays, I know many kids can relate, it just felt like a hassle. So I wasn't able to do very well in Chinese school. And also the most of the culture that I learned was orally told by my parents, but I still felt bewildered because the language and the generation gap between us are like completely different. We have the different ways of thinking and also a language. My parents grew up speaking Chinese, and my first language was English. So it was definitely hard to relate and also to like connect with them. And I know that like the Chinese school was definitely to help them connect with us. And when I grew up in high school, I did take the Chinese language, and I was able to have a better communication with them. The turning point. It was when I went into high school because, uh, like I said, I went to a predominantly white middle school. So my high school was like 40% Asian or 50%. And it was like definitely a bigger populations of Asians. And there were like culture clubs and also and also my parents allowed me to go to summer camps. Since my mom is a Canadian and also US citizen, uh, in the Canada, there are like those summer camps where they send you off to China for the summer to learn about the literature, the art, the calligraphy. And I told my mom I was really interested, and like she also wanted me to go. So after 1 year after going, I was really like, I allowed myself to be immersed into the language, immersed to the culture. And I went back 2 times, and I was really happy learning about like where my parents grew up, where and how Asian culture impacted history. Because in America, you can't see that. Like the single story written, they never really like praise the cultural aspect of how Asians impacted American history. And then the cultural clubs, it was American students of Asian origins. I attended their meetings, and also Asian Pacific Islander Union. It's where we learn to basically learn about Asian solidarity, Asian history, how Asians stood up in times of need to protect themselves, to protect their livelihood. And it was truly inspiring to see that. And some of the biggest challenges as an Asian child growing up in America definitely was the model minority. Asians were perceived as smart, wealthy, hardworking, submissive, docile. In middle school, I was basically the person to go to for a project. They pushed everything off to me. I had to do the most work. It was definitely hard to see. I remember one time I was doing a science project, and it was basically on just like evolution on the chimpanzees. And basically I drew everything on a poster. I like created everything, and then my group mates, they basically ignored everything. And then it was the time to speak, and I chose not to just because I was the one who did everything. So I thought, okay, it's probably best for them to do it. And then like in 2 seconds in, they like started, they basically stuttered out, and I felt like, oh my God, what are we supposed to do now? And at the end of the thing, I basically had to redo the whole presentation for our class. So it was like, ouch in a way, because they were using me just because I was Asian. And I think the limited places of comfort circles in America is definitely like insane, because many children, including myself, are confused about Asian culture because we aren't able to view the actual impacts Asian culture has on America. And thankfully, in Philadelphia, we have a Chinatown, but many other states do not have a Chinatown. And that's Chinatown is basically showing how it's like basically a stance telling Americans, telling everyone that Asians have impacted us, have impacted history, because Asian that sorry, uh, sorry, that Chinatown was there to make us put a stand, make a point, and I think that like really truly made a difference for me, because my parents always took me to Chinatown on Sundays, and like to see so many Asians diverse and always walking around the streets, always like speaking. It's like they were so comfortable. Whereas, of course, in predominantly white places, they're more likely to be silent because they don't feel comfortable, because they don't see like any similarities. And yeah. And then ways to expand the culture rather than deleting it. In my opinion, these are like many of the ways that I want to see happen. It's like having more novels, or having novels in general written by Asian descent in schools, because currently the stories written about Asians are written by white males or just the white population, and it's not at all like what they do not know what it is to be Asian. They don't know Asian history by their heart. They only use what they know from a person outside looking in, rather in person looking in. Sorry, did I cut out? Okay. Creating an Asian American history course at schools, because my school this year actually was able to create one, and the whole curriculum is created by Asian students, which is amazing. And I know that New Jersey also implemented a Asian American history course this year as well, and ready for use for next year. Becoming open-minded is definitely a way to expand the culture, because like I said, taking into account of what Americans has written about Asians, but also taking into account of what Asians have written about their history, because I feel like having a both side of the stories will give you a broader view, a bigger understanding, and a better chance to understand the whole history as a whole. What if it's hard to embrace it? I too experienced bullying due to the fact that I was Asian, but it's our job to overcome it. In middle school, I was definitely bullied a lot, but I feel like there was a certain point, my teacher or like some of my classmates, my friends, helped me overcome it. They told me to ignore what they say, ignore their actions, and prove to them that you're so much more than the model minority myth, or that your culture is what impacted you, it is what inspires you to be what you want to be in the future. Because I feel like now I have a bigger understanding of how my culture impacts me, because my culture, my parents, my family always told me to be open-minded, always told me to put myself in other people's shoes, always told me to respect elders. Those little things has pushed me to be a better person, has pushed me to have a bigger goals. Ignore the people that are trying to push you down. Ignore the people that are trying to mock you, yell at you, because they are not worth it. And the most important thing is to trust yourself rather than believe that you cannot take it. Because without us using our voice to show that we are human as well, society will forever walk over us. Society will think, oh, they are Asians, they will be quiet, submissive. No, we are so much more than that. And to do that, we must prove that we have a voice. We shouldn't let people walk over us. There were there was times that my classmates in high school, actually, they were like, oh, why don't you do this for me? And I'm like, no, because at that point I realized, why must I do a homework for you that was for you to do, when I am so much more than that? I am a human as well, and I deserve respect. I deserve to be who I am, and I deserve to be shining through my own academics. And like, that shows how we impacted the foundation of America. Without Asians, America's diversity wouldn't be as high. Their cuisines, China and also other Asian countries have impacted the cuisines and has implemented so many things into American history. For example, I think in recent years, the American families, from what I know of my friends, they started to do the round table, that's dinners, that is very like prevalent in Asian culture, where it was a place for the family to talk while eating at a set time, rather like at different house places. And so that like showed like how family is so important. I feel like in Asian culture, family is very, like, the meaning of family is so prevalent, and it's so like important. And I feel like it transferred into American history to show how families should stick together, how families should interact. And then without diversity, our society wouldn't have progressed so much. Like I said, we without society, without diversity, our society wouldn't have created so many cuisines, wouldn't have the AI information that China has compared to America, because the artificial intelligence in China is so much more progressed compared to America's. And also, we would always be closed-minded, because without diversity, would be only one way of thinking, one way of living life. And that will make everyone feel just like out of it. They would just like feel like there's no meaning in life. There's no sorry, there would be no interactions to have, because everyone's thinking the same. And also, society would be in chaos. There would be a group of people who believe differently, and that can cause a totalitarian world where the bigger population is more likely to hate on them, to believe that, oh, they are supposed to be outcasts, which can cause chaos and lead to many wars, etc., etc. To be a better person, here's some of my little suggestions for the next generation. But I'm definitely not a role model, but this is how I view it. We must put ourselves into others' shoes. We don't know what they're going through in their life, so we should at most show the respect that they deserve. And their appearance can mean a different thing, and so we should always be nice and kind. And we are unaware of the problems that others have because they won't tell us. But thus we know that others have stories we may not know of. And with that, we will be able to unite together from different backgrounds to fix the broken system that is placed in today's society. I feel like since we have unaware problems, we hope to connect bridges and also to unite them, because the broken system has caused so many people disconnected. They have made them believe that, oh, it's only one side and this is one side, but to fix the system that we have, the racial system that's hurting everyone, we must stick together to make a difference, to make a better America in a way. And also to find your passion. Take part into volunteerism where you are learning from different departments to help the different communities. For example, I did vaccine uptake, like I said, Philly Team Vax. I believe that since COVID started, there were so many myths about what the COVID vaccine had, and it kind of made me hurt a little bit just because my grandparents are like old and very like sensitive to diseases, which can cause them to have COVID-19 and possibly lead to death. And it just, I wanted to take part into that because I feel like because I wanted to keep every child and also grandparents, everyone to be safe. And that vaccine uptake was definitely how I believed was to do it for a young person like me. And then also the civic engagement with among the among the Asian community. I did voters registrations in Chinatown, and wow, I was really amazed because I know that Chinese, Mandarin is the mostly spoken language in the Chinatown area, but I realized there was also Cantonese and other Asian languages, and I saw how many people were undocumented, be more busy because they had to go work. They had to make sure that they were going home on the right time. And it was surely amazing to see so many like to like help the elderly, help the Asian community to raise their voice, because I know that the Asian community don't know whether or not if their voice is worth it to vote. And I believe that I told them, I believe that for them to for the higher ups to take notice, the higher ups to actually change, we must change the higher ups. And to do that, we have to have a voice. And yeah. Also, to become open-minded. We should learn of the different stories before letting our biases get to us, because with different views, we will become more educated and understanding. And with that understanding, my parents, they took me to they allowed me to go to Guatemala for the summer last year, and I asked them to go. I asked them for me to go, to let me go, because I know it was definitely a weird time because COVID-19 cases were going high. But I told them I wanted to go because I wanted to see how other people lived without the same resources we have. Guatemala is a third world country, and they don't have the resources, they don't have the medical resources like we do. And when I went there, I saw how happy, despite the fact that their resources like were bad, or their environment was deteriorating, I saw how happy they were with what they got. And what I brought back from that trip, it made me be more thankful for what I have today, because so many other people do not have that. And it made me feel more confident in what I wanted to be as my next step, which is to become a pediatrician. And I hope to basically go into the medical field and go to take trips to third world countries and help those children, because I feel like to make a change, you have to start it. Yeah. And then to learn more about your heritage, I know many kids are like very iffy about this just because they're like, oh, I know so much already, or like, they believe they do, or they just don't care because they're more on the American side. But for those kids, I really hope you do realize that your Asian heritage is so important. How your parents came to America, how your parents, how your grandparents, how your ancestors basically built China in a way, like their economy, their progressiveness. I believe that that's amazing. That's amazing to hear. That's amazing to learn about, because so many kids, they don't they don't want to hear about it in a way, just because they don't care. They're more like interested in, right now I'm guessing, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's information. But I feel like for us to be connected, we must talk to each other. And because the generation gap with my parents, they're always saying, oh, it's because of the generation gap, you and I can't understand each other. And it definitely is. But I'm like always educating them myself and asking them about their stories, about how they came to America, about how my parents survived, and how my parents and grandparents, etc., basically lived their lives to become where they are. Because being first generations coming to America, they didn't go to high school. They immediately went to work. And like many other like parents, not Asian descent really, they're more likely to go to college. But my parents, they realized that for them to succeed in America, they must go to work, because they believe that America was a better chance. And so they went to work because they wanted their sons and daughters like me to have a better life, to have a world where they do not have to worry about whether or not they will be fed, because because they want us to be smiling. They want us to have a good life. And I think that's what I learned throughout the years of being a second generation child. It's definitely a hard thing to understand, because like they're constantly telling you to do this and this, but in the end of the day, if you look at their point of view, they're doing so much and hoping that you will one day understand. And yeah. Um, uh, I also wanted to talk about how the incident impacted me. I'm physically I'm physically recovered, and I'm like getting better mentally. And I think um, it impacted me in a way where I realized that I realized that if I want people to stand up, is not to tell them to stand up in dangerous situations, because they are sons and daughters of a parent. So I completely understand. And I feel like when I mean to stand up, it's not to stand up in difficult situations. It's to stand up using your voice in rallies, in social media is very important in today's society. And I feel like standing up is raising awareness. Standing up is raising awareness about the Asian hate crimes that have increased immensely since the rise of COVID-19 cases, which is crazy because many of the Asians that were attacked were not actually from China. And also the Chinese elderlies are definitely have been attacked, which is scary, because during the COVID-19, my grandparent, grandma, we basically asked her do not come out, really, because we were scared to see her to be attacked, because we didn't want her to be end up on the news. We knew how much elderly Asians have been constantly attacked, abused, and it's heartbreaking to see it to be if it's going to be one of your own, but it's also heartbreaking to see it being your Asian community, because it's like they believe that we are nothing, but that's like morally wrong, because we are something. We are human, we are making a difference, and we're constantly hoping that they can see us rather than believe that we're something that they can push around, which we are not, because we are basically so we're like, I'm guessing like we're very sorry, we have a big population of Asians in America, and yeah, and to see it happen to us, it's crazy, and it's disgusting to see it happen. And I'm just hoping that this lecture and also other lectures hopefully will raise awareness about um how important teen voice is, a, and also how important it is to stand up orally. And